A man walks into a gun shop. He is 72 years old. He tells the guy behind the counter he wants something for the bedroom, something for the nightstand, and he walks out of there 40 minutes later holding 14.5 ounces of aluminum alloy with a 12-pound trigger and 5 rounds in it. He is not an unusual man at all. Nearly 7 in 10 gun owners his age bought for protection. That gun will sit in a drawer for years, and if he ever picks it up in the dark at a distance shorter than his own kitchen, he will find out something nobody told him. The man who sold it to him wasn't lying, he just wasn't measuring. Because there is one measurement that decides this whole question before caliber ever enters the room, and it isn't in the gun at all. It's in you. You have heard the answer to this 100 times, and it always shows up in the same 3 shapes. Get a revolver, they're simple. Get a shotgun, you can't miss. Get a 9, everybody shoots a 9. Every one of those answers a question about ammunition. None of them answers a question about you. The measurement isn't recoil, it isn't muzzle energy, and it isn't gauge. It's a number your eye doctor could read off a chart in 90 seconds, and once you have it, the entire argument you've been having reorganizes itself in front of you. And I'll tell you the shape of the ending right now, so nobody feels strung along. This finishes with 2 answers, not 1. There's a winner, and there's a smart buy, and they are not the same gun. Subscribe if you want the measurement instead of the marketing. But before any of that, one idea, and everything after it reads differently. You are not buying a carry gun. You are buying a bedroom gun. Sit with that, because nearly every recommendation you've ever gotten was built for a gun that leaves the house. Small, because it hides under a shirt. Light, because it hangs on your belt for 14 hours. Short-barreled, because it clears a holster. Every one of those is a concession. You give up sight radius, you give up weight, you give up rounds, and you accept a stiffer, meaner little gun in exchange for forgetting it's there. Now take away the shirt, take away the belt, take away the 14 hours. What's left lives in one room, in one drawer, 3 feet from your head. The gun store sold you concealment. You asked for defense. Which means 2 of the 3 answers you've been given were answering a different question than the one you asked. That isn't entirely the counter guy's fault. He's selling out of a catalog built for pockets. Go back to 1952. Smith Wesson turns 100 and puts out the Centennial, a 5-shot on the small J-frame with the hammer sealed up inside so nothing catches on the way out of a coat pocket. That was the brief. Pocket, coat, snag-free. Then somebody put an aluminum alloy frame under it, called it the airweight, and the thing dropped under a pound. That number sold guns for 70 years, and it should have. For a man carrying every day, it's the difference between wearing the gun and leaving it home. Nobody in the industry seriously wrote down that hand strength was a design input until 2009, when Ruger built the LCR trigger around the fact that people were struggling. Smith followed in 2018 with the EZ line, and again in 2020 with the 9mm version, internal hammer, lighter recoil spring, tabs on the magazine so you pull the follower down instead of fighting it. Read those dates again, 2009, 2018, 2020. That is how recently anyone building these things admitted on paper that the buyer might not be able to work it. And every one of those guns was still designed to be carried. The category was built for a pocket and then handed to a nightstand. Nobody re-derived the requirements. So here's the argument as it actually gets made, and each side gets its due. The 9mm camp brings numbers. A 124 grain load runs around 1,150 feet per second and lands near 364 foot-pounds at the muzzle. A standard .38 special with a 130 grain load runs 800 to 850 and gets you 200 to 230. That's a real gap, and nobody serious argues it. The 9 also gives you 2 to 3 times the rounds. The .38 camp brings simplicity. Nothing to rack, nothing to fail to feed. Pick it up, pull it, it goes. And the shotgun camp brings payload, 1 trigger pull, multiple projectiles, a pattern that forgives an imperfect hold. Every one of those claims is true. Here's where the shotgun guys should stop reading. Take a common 12-gauge load, an ounce and an eighth at 1,200 feet per second, out of a 7.5-pound gun. Free recoil comes out around 18 foot-pounds. 18. That same 124-grain 9 out of a 2.5-pound pistol is about 2.8. That isn't a matter of getting used to it. That's roughly 6 times the energy into your shoulder in the dark at 72 years old on the one night it counted. And the noise doesn't sort itself out either. A 12-gauge peaks around 161 decibels. Indoor ranges measure between 157 and 168. The federal ceiling for a single unprotected impulse is 140, and a shot fired inside a house runs 5 to 10 decibels hotter at your ear than the same shot outdoors. Every option here is far past that line. That isn't an argument for the shotgun or against it. It's a fact you should have been handed before you bought anything. Let me name what's going wrong here. Most men end up with the wrong gun because they walked in not knowing what any of this costs or what it's actually good at, and the guy behind the counter was happy to fill that silence with whatever he had the most of in the back. Every number in this video is measured, and where the tests disagree, I'll tell you they disagree. Subscribe if you want the mechanism because it lands next. Now back to it. Your eye focuses by squeezing a lens inside it. The strength of that squeeze is measured in diopters, and it is the most reliable decline in the entire human body. At 40, you have around 4 of them, which puts the closest thing you can bring into focus about 10 inches off your face. By your late 50s or early 60s, that number drops below 1. Below 1 diopter, the closest point you can bring into sharp focus sits a meter away. 3 feet. Farther. Now hold a pistol out the way you actually would. Your front sight is sitting about 2 feet from your eye. Inside, it is inside your near point. It is not blurry because the light is bad, or because you're tired, or because you didn't concentrate. It cannot be focused. There is no amount of trying that fixes it. 1 diopter, that's the whole argument. And look at what the caliber debate is doing while that's true. It's optimizing the last 6 inches of the problem, what the bullet does when it arrives, while the first 24 inches from your eye to your front sight has already failed. You are arguing foot-pounds over a sight you physically cannot see. Nobody's eye gets better. Then there's the other half, and this one you already know in your hands. Grip strength peaks for a man at 32 or 33. By 60, you're down about 11.5% from that peak. By 79, closer to 29, and through your 70s, it's falling roughly 0.4 of a kilogram every year. Somebody put a force gauge on a rack of pistols and measured what it takes to pull a slide back. A popular subcompact came in at 18.56 pounds with almost 10 pounds of spread between the easiest and hardest gun on the bench. 18.5 pounds pulled with your fingertips off the smallest gripping surface anybody sells. Which means both camps have been arguing about the wrong end of the gun. The revolver camp is right. There is no slide. That's a correct answer to a real problem. But look at what they handed you instead. That 5-shot has a double-action trigger between 10 and 12 pounds, and it's 10 to 12 pounds every single time you press it. The revolver took away the slide and handed you the spring. And it's the same aluminum from the top of this video. That's the part that gets sold as a feature. Light is a carry virtue. On a nightstand, it's just recoil you paid extra for, with no weight in the gun to absorb anything. So an arthritic hand takes the sharpest impulse in the category, 5 times, off a sight it already couldn't focus. 5 rounds and a 12-pound trigger isn't simplicity. It's a bill that comes due on every shot. The semi-auto camp is right too. 4 to 5 pounds on the trigger is the easiest thing in the room to press. But then they point you at the smallest gun on the shelf, and the small guns are exactly where the springs are stiffest relative to how much slide you can get a hand on. Ask around among men who've owned both for 30 years, and the account comes back the same. The slide hurts. The revolver trigger hurts worse. And nobody at the counter raised either one. That's testimony, not measurement, and I'll call it what it is. But it's consistent. Both camps were answering a question about concealment. Neither was answering yours. And now the part the shotgun crowd is going to hate. The 12-gauge pump is the most beloved home defense gun in America, and it fails your body on 3 axes at once. The recoil into a shoulder that's had 70 years on it, the noise at the top of the scale, and a pump stroke that needs 2 working hands and a shoulder pocket performed correctly in the dark while your hands shake. But the real problem is the reason people pick it, and the reason isn't true. The idea is that shot stays in the room. It doesn't. Somebody built a rack of half-inch sheetrock panels spaced like real interior walls and shot it from 7 feet. Handgun rounds, 9mm and .45 both, went through 6 walls worth. Even 20-gauge birdshot cleared 3. Where the tests fight each other is the rifle. One had 5.56 as the most penetrative thing on the rack. Another body of testing put it behind a 147-grain 9mm. That part is genuinely argued, and I'm not going to pretend it's settled. What isn't argued, none of it stays where you thought it stayed. Whatever you keep loaded, you own where it stops. Subscribe if this one earned it. So what's left? A few things somebody is already typing. The best gun is the one you have on you. That one has been the end of every video like this for 20 years, and it is the most useless true sentence in the hobby. Of course it is. But you asked which one to buy, and whichever is not an answer, it's a man declining to give you one. If it's going to live in a drawer, buy the thing that's best at living in a drawer. The sound of racking a pump makes them leave. It doesn't. What it does is empty a chamber and announce which room you're standing in. The 410 revolver. These get sold hard to men your age, and they're the worst of both parents. A short shot column out of a rifled barrel. A pattern that opens up wrong, and none of the softness you were promised. The 22. The honest case is real. A hit beats a miss, and a man who'll practice with a 22 is ahead of one who flinches through 5 rounds of 38 twice a year. The honest counter is ignition. Rimfire is the one reliability question you cannot audit at 3 in the morning, and a lot of you load your own and have for 40 years, and you're about to tell me what you'd build for this. I know. This one stays on factory ammunition start to finish because the man who needs this video most has never sat at a press and isn't going to start this year. Now the actual answer. Here's your winner, a 9mm carbine with a red dot on it. Both halves of the mechanism disappear. The dot is collimated, projected out at infinity, so the distance prescription you already wear brings it into focus the same way it brings a road sign into focus. There's no near point problem because there's nothing near to focus on. And a 6.5 or 7-pound gun firing the same load your pistol fires cuts the recoil to a fraction of what that pump does. Run the ratio yourself on any calculator you like, it holds. The stock takes the work off your wrists entirely, and there's no slide to fight after the first one. The one most men land on is the Ruger PC carbine, and there's something worth knowing about the company that builds it. Ruger started in a machine shop in Southport, Connecticut in 1949. On the 1st of January this year, the headquarters moved to Mayodan, North Carolina. About 100 jobs cut in the restructuring, and roughly 20 people left in the building where the whole thing began. Whatever you think about that, the plant that assembles your carbine is in North Carolina, and has been for years. That doesn't mean everyone comes out of the box right. Some men have had real quality complaints and said so publicly. So look down the bore before money changes hands, work the action, and if it's used, ask what it's been fed. Used, they've been running $400 to $500 this year. New in a state-compliant configuration, closer to $740, and what's legal to own varies by state, so check yours before you buy anything. Check the price the week you buy, too. 9mm ammunition topped 35 cents a round in January, roughly a dime over last year's average, after 3 increases in 8 months from the group that owns Federal, CCI, Remington, Speer, and Blazer. That's the winner. Here's its honest cost. It's 30 inches long. It doesn't fit in a drawer. It never leaves the house with you. And if it lives in a safe you can't open at 3 in the morning, it's furniture. So here's your smart buy. A full-size or Easy Rack 9 with a dot on it. The Smith EZ pattern runs about 23 ounces, internal hammer, lighter spring, 8 rounds, tabs on the magazine so your thumbs aren't the limiting factor. It launched at $479. You give up the shoulder and the stability. You get a gun that can also leave the house. And the snub isn't disqualified. It's narrow. It's for the man whose hands genuinely cannot cycle a slide, who's decided he can live with 5 rounds in that trigger, and who needs it in a pocket sometimes. That man exists. If he's you, buy it on purpose instead of by accident. Subscribe if the split verdict is what you came for. 1 line each. The carbine answers the physics completely and answers portability not at all. The EZ Rack 9 is the compromise most men should actually make. The snub is a specialist tool that got sold as a beginner's gun, and the 12 gauge in your closet isn't garbage. It's asking your body for 3 things at once that your body stopped volunteering for. You don't need a smaller gun. You need a gun that stopped asking you for strength. So stop shopping for a caliber and start shopping for the 2 things your body actually has to do: see it and run it. Buy the gun your hands will still work in 10 years, not the one that fit your pocket 10 years ago. Now tell me in the comments your age, what's on your nightstand, what you paid for it, and where you bought it.